Well met, everyone. I am Rich the Lich. Today I am going to be doing a fun fights video. Let's jump into it. We have a cool little app here. If I pull up the D&D Beyond interface, you will see that as far as monsters go, with the recent release of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, there are some new pages. There are 73 total pages of monsters. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my D&D dice roller. I'm going to randomly determine what page we are going to pull a monster from, and in that I will go through live on video, hence the point of doing this randomly. I will create some sort of an encounter, something to do with that monster, to make the situation, the combat, more interesting, exciting, more fun. So let's jump into it. Let's see how we do. So there are 73 pages. I'm going to roll percentile dice, and I'm going to make a roll. I'll ignore everything 74 and above. So 88, let's re-roll. 34. So we will be pulling a monster from page 34. Okay, page 34. I'm guessing, as usual, there are 20 monsters, but I'll count it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 at the Iron Cobra. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There are 20 monsters on page 34. Let's go back to the D&D dice roller, and now I'll roll a d20, and the result is 1. Critical fumble. Cool. We are going to be working with an Immured One from the Lost Laboratory of Qualish. Immured One. No picture. I don't know what this is. Hailing from uncivilized lands, unpredictable berserkers come together in war parties and seek conflict wherever they can find it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick search. I don't think I've had to do this on any of my fun fight videos before, simply because that's not going to help me. That's the same thing. There's always been a picture, and as I'm being very free with this, I want to kind of have some idea on where to go direction-wise, and sometimes a picture can be worth a lot. Well, we're looking at a medium humanoid, any race, any chaotic alignment. So, from uncivilized lands, unpredictable berserkers come together in war parties. Okay, so basically what we're looking at is a CR2. It's a barbarian, basically. You can tell it's a medium humanoid. It talks about unpredictable berserkers, uncivilized, has the ability reckless, as you would find in the barbarians and whatnot. While in sunlight, an Immured One has disadvantage. So I think that's what we're working with here, is some sort of a barbarian berserker type creature. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a print screen. We're going to jump over to Photoshop. I'm going to paste this in. And the reason why I'm taking this piece is the intention here is I would make a sort of a cheat sheet, if you will, that I can bring with me to the gaming table. So this is something I'd print out and have as sort of my notes, and then underneath here I would even have like 67 hit points, and as I go through and the characters deal damage to this, I would cross this off, and this is where I can track everything during the encounter. But this also gives me, in presentation form, a neat little screen that I can kind of run with and do something with. So the other thing I'm going to do here, as often, is I will create a stroke. This has nothing to do with the design of this thing, of fun fights at all. It just helps me be creative. I like to have some real pretty aesthetics. So what am I going to work with here? Immured One. It's a medium humanoid. Let's see if there's anything that stands out to me. That's always the first thing I do. He's got hide armor. Okay. He has a lot of hit points, so definitely screams barbarian to me. Speed of 30 feet normal. He's got good strength and constitution, as you would expect. Nothing else proficient in any saves. Passive perception, fine. He speaks usually common, so even though he has the ability to communicate with the group, all of these fun fight videos are intended to be conflicts, violence, right? One side does something until the other side is, last man standing sort of thing. So no parlay aspect here. It's just go until one side wins. He's got Reckless. At the start of its turn, the Berserker can gain advantage on non-melee... Okay, I know what that is, but all attacks against it have advantage. While in sunlight, an Immured One has disadvantage on attack rolls. Okay. And then action, Shackling Change. It's a melee attack, plus 5 to hit, reach 5 feet, 1 target. So, chains, I would oftentimes think that that's some sort of a long whip effect, like a length of chain. Where here it's just a 5-foot reach. But I'm wondering... I don't know. I wish there was a picture that would kind of indicate to me how this works. Are the chains sort of wrapped around his knuckles like brass knuckles? Because it's just a melee attack, but it's not a traditional weapon like a sword or an axe or something. It's called shackling chains. I'm not sure what that kind of informs to me. It does bludgeoning damage. It's still 5 feet reach, so nothing with that. But then also shackling is, I wonder if they were once sort of confined and, restrained to something. So here's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to create, I'm thinking barbarian, and I've done this before on previous videos. I'm going to create this arena, if you will. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll kind of make this crude, what the hell? I'm going to make this crude circle. Okay, and we'll go with, to even crude it up, if that's a word, I'm going to use this sort of rough, this brush. That's a pretty damn good circle, if I must say so. So we're going to also give this some scale. I don't normally worry about that too much, but let's move it down here, or up here a little bit. Okay, I'm back. So after all that craziness, what I did is I just relayed it out a little bit, and I threw a grid in here that I can kind of turn the opacity down so that it doesn't stand out too much, but it gives me just some direction. It doesn't have to be exact. If I was going to create this as some sort of terrain piece at my table and bring it to the table for my group, I can obsess about the grid lines a little more so that things are a little more exact within that movement range. But I use theater of the mind a lot of the time anyway. I have terrain out, but I use kind of gridless combat. So let's see. We have these Immured Ones. I'm going to create numerous bad guys. All right, we'll put the bad guys in red, and there's going to be a guy here, a guy here, a guy here, a guy here, here. Notice there's a pattern sort of how I'm kind of creating this, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create these black sort of these are almost like pillars, like totems maybe. Okay, and kind of one and the same. They're pillars that these Immured Ones are going to be shackled to. Okay, and the idea, and I just kind of came up with this, is these guys are shackled to these pillars. Okay, and I said totems initially because there's something maybe religious, or there's something that stands out about those things, and maybe there's nothing there that's actually usable mechanically, but by having the pillars have various totem-like, totem-like decor and motifs. All right. So if we were to have this regular pillar here, right, and there's this big pillar. Okay, what I'm talking about is there's just this level of, let's kind of create 1, 2, and 3. So 3 levels of it, right? So there's this thing going on here, and then we have sort of a, maybe some sort of a weird, I don't know, a face, if you will. I don't know. We'll kind of create it like that. Okay, you don't know if that's like a nose, if that's, looks very sort of like, remember the guys on the door in Labyrinth, for those that are old enough or you've seen that movie and you remember. So there's this weird motif to these things, right? And it's like just carvings, and maybe there's sort of a lower lip, like a dragon mouth, if you will. And we'll give it kind of this gnashiness. So there's that going on, and then this one has just sort of a different, I don't know, whatever. Okay, there's this piece going here, and then this one is just a bunch of bands. This is black, and then the one underneath it's black as well. So let's just kind of create this weird something going on here. So imagine these are the pillars, and then on these are these big ass hooks. Okay, and then from them are these chains. With the sound effects to boot. Okay, so this is what we've got going on, right? So this is the pillar, which is this. Okay, whatever. I don't know what that is. Doesn't matter. But there's these pillars. These things, these various motifs and decors on them that make them look kind of like these stacked totems or something like that, they don't have any major significance. They may not do anything mechanically, but by throwing little things like that into the game, you get the PCs maybe delaying or maybe spending an action to use a perception or investigate check when they're near the pillar. They may not know whether this means anything or not, but it creates interest. That's what you're trying to do, right? Is just create something more interesting. So these guys are shackled to it. And then all I'm going to do, very simple, is there's numerous bad guys. Pillars have various, so you can read it, totem-like decor and motifs. And then the berserkers, which are these guys, are chained I apologize, folks. Berserkers are chained to the pillars. And then with that, at the start of combat, roll 1d6 for each. Anyone that breaks out with a 6 has a ranged chain attack. Okay, so if we've got red for the bad guys, we are going to put some good guys in here. Okay, and here's the good guys. They're going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a 15-foot square, remember? So you can have multiple guys in there. So we've got 5 dudes that come into this arena. I'm not worried about, for the case of this video, and even for the encounter itself, it doesn't matter how they got into the arena, whether they came in the top, is it open ceiling, is it an underground arena, whatever. It doesn't need to worry about where the doorway and the corridors are. They're in this arena. They are going to fight against, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, against 10 of these immured ones. There's not a lot going on. Yes, there's reckless. Let's keep that while in sunlight. Okay, so maybe keep it an underground arena so that I'm not underground. Arena. But every 1d4 rounds, actually every X rounds, roll 1d4 at start. Rocks fall. Dex DC 11 save. Or take. This is a CR2 encounter, right? Roughly. So we don't want to go too crazy. Let's just say 3d6 bludgeoning. But daylight in 3 squares. Okay, so there's a mechanic there that goes off of maybe giving the PCs a chance to mess around with that weakness. So here's what's going to happen. At the start of combat, I roll 2 dice. I roll a d6 here, and then I roll a d4 here. Okay. On the d6, a 1 through 5, all that happens is this guy breaks out. Okay? So he can move freely. He can move freely. Let's just say I rolled a 1 through 5 on all these guys. But on this dude right here, I rolled a 6. For anyone, roll 1d6 for each. Anyone that breaks out with a 6 has a ranged chain attack. So this guy breaks out, but since I rolled a 6, he broke out and he pulled away a couple of extra links of chain off of this pillar. Okay? So now it's this shackling chains ability, but instead of just melee weapon attack plus 5, same thing, same damage, bludgeoning, all that stuff, except his reach will be 10 feet. Okay? Now, if you roll a 6 for multiple guys, you now have you've changed the encounter a little bit because now the guys might be able to get opportunity attacks because they have more reach. That can change the encounter in a CR2 thing when 8 guys have reach versus 8 guys are all just in melee combat. Because generally, that's a range that is beyond what the PCs have. So that's an advantage in their regard, right? So that's just one small, simple little thing. We don't want to go too crazy because it's a low CR encounter. We don't want to change things up too much and create too much craziness because now you might be skewing the balance of the encounter. It changes it, but it's also a 1 in 6 chance that they're going to have that range. So that's what the D6 roll is. For the D4, range, attack, reach. And then the D4 is for rock fall timer. Okay, they're underground, and let's say I roll the 2. Every 2 rounds, rocks fall. Okay, it doesn't matter where. I can randomize it, but it's not important. Rocks fall, and then all PCs will take a DC 11. Okay, or I can just randomly pick a spot, right? I can say it's going to be this, this, and this. You don't have to tell the PCs ahead of time, but these 3 spots, rocks fall every 2 rounds. Okay, they fall in 3 different spots, but you want to keep the spaces together. Rocks fall here. Any PCs that happen to be there, and what I mean by not telling them is no matter where they are in the arena, they can never predict where the rocks are going to fall next, okay? You're just going to kind of pick 3 spots. The disadvantage for the PCs here is they need to make a DC 11. I don't want it too difficult, okay? Because it's a relatively low CR encounter. They make a DC 11 save. If they make it, great. It's fine, no problems. If they fail, they're going to take 3d6 rock bludgeoning damage. But for those 3 squares, mark it on the grid somehow. If you're using grid-based combat and you're using like dry erase, draw those spots, okay? Or I've done this before. I have this sort of large 15 by 15 cardboard chit that I cover this spot. You know, I cover this one, and this one. It indicates to my group that there's something going on with those 3 spots. And what that means is there's daylight that pours in now from the ceiling because there's a hole in the roof. And daylight is hitting these 3 spots. So every 2 rounds, daylight is now hitting here. Daylight is now hitting here. Daylight hits here. Any one of these spaces, if they can figure out how to get the barbarian, the berserkers, into those spots, whether through some sort of push mechanic, a pull or something, a thorn whip type effect, or, you know, whatever, they just maneuver themselves. If they can get the barbarians into these spots, but also notice that as the longer the combat goes on, more of the arena, yes, the PCs need to make those deck saves, and perhaps the Zerkers need to make the saves as well. More of the arena is collapsing, but it's creating more daylight, which, based on this here, we know the PCs, or the NPCs have disadvantage on attack rolls. So the longer the battle goes, every 2 rounds that's happening, the longer the battle goes, the more problematic it is and more in favor of the PCs. So those are just 2 simple mechanics that we can work with off of this thing. Number 1, which, depending on how much range, which guys are able to pull a few more chain links away. As I said, I roll a d6. Whatever ones get a 6 have pulled equivalent of 10-foot range on this shackling chains ability. But what that does is that might make the Zerkers a little more hesitant to move anywhere into these spaces. Yes, the Zerkers are going to know. Their intelligence is not that low. They're going to know that sunlight is beaming down on that spot, that 15-foot spot. They're not going to move into there, and they don't have to because they're at range. I can stay here as a Zerker. I can stay in this spot right here and still attack, perhaps within here. Okay? Yes, the whole 10-foot range and the 5-foot range is a little unwieldy when you're dealing with 15-foot squares. So you can simply make these 5 feet each so that the math works out a little better, but that's beside the point of the video. That's kind of where it is, and that's the point of the video by choosing sort of randomly, is figuring out something that is interesting or something that I can kind of run with from the NPC and the monster, and how to turn that into a more exciting and more fun combat. So that's what I have for you folks. Thanks everyone for watching. I do want to mention real quick, I'll do the best I can to put up another video today, but if not, you'll at least definitely get something tomorrow. I am going on vacation Wednesday morning, and I'll be gone for the better part of a week to 10 days. So videos will be, I'm enjoying time with my family, getting away, going international, taking off across the world. So I'm going to have a good time. But of course, once I get back, expect all the goodness with various videos and reviews and all that good stuff. So at the minimum, you'll have 2 more videos, this one and one more before I take off. I'll try and get some more uploaded to hold you guys over, but I'll be back within a week to 2 weeks and get back to the constant uploads like normal. So thanks everyone for watching. Take care.